For the longest time, I thought dogs followed certain people for very simple reasons. I assumed it was mostly about who fed them the most, who trained them properly, or who spent the most time around them every day. And honestly, that explanation seems believable at first. If a dog constantly follows one person around the house while barely paying attention to someone else, it feels natural to assume the dog simply likes that person more. But over time, I started noticing situations that completely challenged that idea. Some dogs became deeply attached to people who barely trained them, while ignoring others who handled most of the obedience work and daily routines. That contradiction stayed in my mind for a long time because it did not fit what I believed about dog behavior. If attachment was mostly about food, training, and structure, why did some dogs clearly choose certain people emotionally over others? Then I started paying closer attention to something I had completely underestimated before. I stopped focusing only on actions and started paying attention to emotional energy, nervous system calmness, predictability, and the emotional atmosphere dogs experienced around different people. And honestly, that changed the way I understand dogs completely. I realized many dogs are not just following routines or rewards, they are often following emotional safety. Most owners assume dogs follow certain people because of food or attention alone. While those things absolutely matter, many dogs also seem deeply drawn toward people who make them feel emotionally calm and secure. Dogs constantly read human behavior far more deeply than most people realize. They notice tone shifts, frustration, tension, body language, predictability, nervousness, routines, confidence, and emotional consistency constantly. One thing I completely misunderstood early on was how emotionally sensitive dogs really are. Dogs are incredibly aware of nervous system energy around them. Some people naturally create calmness around dogs without even realizing it. Their movements feel predictable, their tone stays emotionally steady, and their presence feels emotionally safe to the dog. Other people unintentionally create emotional tension. Fast movements, inconsistent reactions, nervous energy, frustration, loud voices, or unpredictable behavior can make sensitive dogs feel more alert and emotionally unsettled. This is one reason dogs sometimes choose one person over another inside the same household. The dog may simply feel emotionally safer and more regulated around that particular person. One thing that surprised me most was how often anxious dogs become attached to emotionally calm people specifically. Many nervous dogs seem drawn toward humans who create stability instead of stimulation. This becomes especially obvious during stressful situations. Dogs frequently move toward the person who feels most emotionally predictable when they feel uncertain or overwhelmed. That realization completely changed how I looked at attachment behavior. I stopped seeing dogs following people as simple favoritism and started seeing it as emotional trust and nervous system regulation. One major mistake people make is assuming dogs only bond through training and obedience. Training absolutely strengthens relationships, but emotional safety often strengthens attachment even more deeply. Dogs often form their strongest bonds with people who consistently make life feel calmer, safer, and more understandable emotionally. Trust grows through repeated emotional experiences over time. One thing many owners underestimate is how strongly dogs respond to emotional predictability. Dogs generally relax around people whose behavior feels consistent and emotionally readable. This is why dogs sometimes avoid people who feel emotionally unpredictable. Loud emotional swings, tension, frustration, chaotic energy, or inconsistent interaction can slowly make some dogs more emotionally cautious. And interestingly, dogs often notice these emotional differences long before humans do. Dogs constantly study emotional atmosphere because survival and social safety are deeply connected to emotional awareness for them. Another thing I misunderstood was assuming dogs always follow the leader in the traditional sense. Many dogs actually follow emotional stability more than dominance or control. This becomes very obvious with highly sensitive dogs. These dogs often attach intensely to humans who feel emotionally grounding and calm. One thing many people notice is that dogs frequently follow individuals who barely speak. Calm, quiet people often create less emotional pressure, which allows dogs to relax more naturally around them. Meanwhile, highly stimulating people sometimes accidentally overwhelm emotionally sensitive dogs without realizing it. Constant excitement, unpredictable interaction, or nervous energy can keep some dogs emotionally alert instead of emotionally settled. This is where many owners misunderstand attachment behavior completely. Dogs are not always following excitement, many are following regulation. Another huge factor is trust built through emotional consistency. Dogs remember repeated emotional experiences far more deeply than people realize. Humans who respond calmly during stress often build enormous emotional trust with dogs over time. Dogs begin associating those people with safety and predictability during difficult moments. This becomes especially important for fearful or reactive dogs. Many emotionally overwhelmed dogs become intensely bonded to people who help them feel emotionally secure during stressful situations. One thing that changed my perspective massively was noticing how differently dogs behave around emotionally calm owners. Their body language softens, movement slows, engagement increases, and nervous system tension often decreases visibly. That difference can completely change a dog's personality outwardly. Dogs that seem anxious or hyper alert around one person sometimes appear deeply relaxed around another. At first, I thought this was mostly coincidence. But the more dogs I observed, the more consistent the pattern became. Another thing dogs seem deeply drawn toward is emotional understanding. Dogs often connect strongly with humans who notice subtle emotional shifts without immediately escalating pressure or frustration. This is one reason patient owners often build such powerful bonds with difficult dogs. Calm understanding creates emotional safety that many sensitive dogs crave deeply. One thing many owners accidentally do is focus heavily on controlling behavior while overlooking emotional connection. Dogs may obey commands while still feeling emotionally disconnected from the relationship underneath. Connection often develops through very simple moments. Calm presence, relaxed routines, predictable interaction, patient communication, and emotional steadiness often matter more than dramatic training sessions. Another thing I eventually realized is that dogs constantly observe how humans handle stress themselves. Dogs notice frustration during walks, emotional tension inside homes, nervousness around strangers, and emotional reactions to difficult situations immediately. This is one reason emotionally calm people often help dogs feel calmer too. Dogs frequently mirror the emotional atmosphere surrounding them daily. One major retention moment for me personally came after watching a nervous rescue dog completely ignore everyone in a room except one older man sitting quietly in the corner. The dog slowly walked over, leaned against him silently, and relaxed more deeply than it had around anyone else all day. What shocked me was that the man never called the dog, touched the dog first, or even tried to interact much at all. The dog simply chose the person who felt safest emotionally. That moment completely changed the way I understand attachment behavior in dogs. I realized many dogs are not chasing attention nearly as much as they are chasing emotional regulation and safety. Another thing dogs seem to need deeply is emotional clarity. Dogs generally trust people more when interaction feels emotionally understandable and consistent over time. This is why unpredictable emotional behavior often damages trust slowly. Dogs may still obey outwardly while quietly becoming more emotionally cautious underneath. One thing many people misunderstand is that emotionally secure dogs still enjoy excitement and play. Emotional safety does not mean calmness all the time. It means the dog feels safe enough internally to relax fully after stimulation ends. Nervous systems recover much faster when emotional trust exists strongly. Another huge lesson for me was understanding that some dogs become Velcro dogs because certain humans regulate their emotional world so effectively. The dog follows because proximity itself feels emotionally stabilizing. This becomes especially obvious in anxious dogs. Many emotionally sensitive dogs stay physically close to the people who help their nervous systems feel calmest. One thing dogs constantly teach humans is that emotional energy matters enormously. Dogs often understand emotional atmosphere far more clearly than people understand it themselves. That does not mean dogs think exactly like humans emotionally. But they are extremely sensitive to emotional consistency, predictability, tension, confidence, calmness, and social energy. Another thing I eventually realized is that dogs often trust calmness more than control. Humans who feel emotionally grounded generally create more emotional security than humans constantly trying to dominate situations emotionally. This is why calm leadership works so powerfully with dogs. Calmness creates nervous system safety while emotional volatility often creates uncertainty. One major mindset shift for me was understanding that dogs are not simply choosing favorite people randomly. Many are responding to emotional experiences that make them feel safest, calmest, and most emotionally regulated internally. That perspective changes everything. Suddenly attachment behavior becomes much deeper than simple preference or excitement. Of course, practical factors still matter too. Feeding, walking, playtime, routines, training, and time together absolutely influence bonding strongly. But emotional atmosphere often shapes attachment far more deeply than many people realize. Dogs generally bond hardest with people who make life feel emotionally safe and understandable. The more I understood this, the more I realized I had been completely wrong about why dogs follow certain people. Many are not simply choosing the person with the most treats or attention. Many are quietly choosing the person who makes their nervous system feel safest. And honestly, realizing that completely changed how I understand dog attachment altogether.